In the pulsating heart of New York City's late-night television scene, where the glow of studio lights mingles with the electric buzz of celebrity revelations, the stage was set for what would become an unforgettable episode of Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. It was a crisp autumn evening in 2025, the kind where the city's skyline shimmered like a promise of drama yet to unfold, and the audience inside the Bravo headquarters was a mix of wide-eyed fans, industry insiders, and the occasional starstruck intern clutching their phone for that perfect Instagram moment. Andy Cohen, the undisputed king of unfiltered celebrity banter, bounded onto the set with his signature cocktail in hand, a vibrant magenta concoction that matched the oversized velvet club chair where his guest of honor, Sarah Jessica Parker, perched elegantly, her iconic curls cascading like a waterfall of controlled chaos. Sarah, at 60 years young, looked every bit the timeless Carrie Bradshaw, dressed in a shimmering metallic gown that caught the light just so, evoking memories of Manolo Blahnik's and moonlit walks through the West Village. The crowd erupted in applause as Andy raised his glass in a toast, his eyes twinkling with that mischievous glint that has made him a household name for over a decade. Ladies and gentlemen, the woman who taught us all how to love fiercely, shop fearlessly, and gossip shamelessly, Sarah Jessica Parker. He boomed, and the cheers swelled like a tidal wave, drowning out the faint hum of the air conditioning. Sarah waved graciously, her smile a perfect blend of warmth and wit, but there was a subtle tension in her posture, a slight clench of her jaw that only those who knew her well might notice, like Andy, who had shared countless martinis and midnight confessions with her over the years. Their friendship, forged in the fires of Sex and the City, after parties and deepened through mutual admiration for bold storytelling, was the stuff of tabloid dreams, but tonight, it would be tested in ways neither could have anticipated. As the theme music faded, Andy settled into his chair, crossing his legs with the casual confidence of a man who had wrangled Real Housewives drama for breakfast. "Sarah, darling, it's been too long since you've graced this purple palace," he teased, referencing the set's infamous hue, and she laughed, a light, tinkling sound that echoed through the studio like wind chimes in a summer breeze. They dove into the easy territory first, reminiscing about the early days of SATC, when Sarah would sneak onto set with homemade cosmopolitans for the crew, or how Andy once accidentally spilled a director's latte during a tense table read, turning potential catastrophe into a bonding ritual. The audience lapped it up, their laughter punctuating each anecdote like applause lines in a well-rehearsed script. But Andy, ever the provocateur, couldn't resist steering the ship toward deeper waters. "Now, let's talk," and just like that, Season 3, fans are dying for spoilers, and I know you've got that time pocket from Episode 9 where Che's backstory gets a glow-up, he said, leaning forward conspiratorially. Sarah's eyes sparkled with genuine excitement. After all, reprising Carrie Bradshaw after all these years was like slipping into a favorite pair of heels, comforting yet exhilarating. She launched into a passionate monologue about the evolution of Carrie's wardrobe, how the designers had infused millennial pink with Gen Z edge, describing in vivid detail the sequined clutch that symbolized Carrie's renewed zest for life post-Big. "It's not just fashion, Andy, it's armor," she declared, her hands gesturing animatedly, painting pictures in the air that the audience could almost touch. Andy nodded, enthusiastically, his own cameo as the shoe salesman Daniel still fresh in his mind. He regaled the crowd with a quick aside about how many takes it took for him to nail that perfect fit line without coring, thanks to Sarah's impeccable comic timing. The energy was electric, the kind that makes live TV feel alive, unpredictable, like a first date with destiny. But beneath the surface, currents were stirring. Sarah had arrived at the studio with a quiet resolve, fresh from a day of press for her latest passion project, a Broadway revival of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, where she was not only starring but producing, pouring her soul into themes of ambition and betrayal that mirrored her own life's complexities. Whispers in the green room had already hinted at the elephant in the room, the lingering shadow of Kim Cattrall's surprise cameo in Season 2, which had sent shockwaves through the fandom and reignited old feuds like a match to dry tinder. Andy, privy to the behind-the-scenes machinations through his Bravo grapevine, knew he was treading on thin ice, but that's what made the show must-see TV. As the first commercial break loomed, he shot her a knowing glance, and she met it with a nod, game on. Little did the audience know, this was merely the calm before the storm, the appetizer before the main course of confrontation that would leave jaws on the floor and headlines screaming across every gossip site from TMZ to TikTok. The lights dimmed briefly for the break, crew members scurrying like shadows, adjusting mics and touching up makeup, while Sarah sipped water from a branded bottle, her mind racing through potential minefields. Andy, meanwhile, huddled with his producer, whispering adjustments to the segment cards, ensuring the questions hit hard but fair. When the show resumed, the applause was thunderous, and Andy wasted no time. "Sarah, we've got to address the elephant, or should I say, the Samantha Jones, in the room. That cameo, iconic. But let's be real. Did it heal old wounds, or just poke at them?" The question hung in the air like smoke from a just-lit cigarette, and Sarah's smile faltered for the briefest moment, a crack in the facade that the high-definition cameras captured in merciless clarity. The audience held its collective breath, sensing the shift from frolic to friction, as Sarah straightened her shoulders, ready to dive into the depths. What followed was a masterclass in poised deflection, her words weaving through the tension like a needle through silk, acknowledging the complexity without conceding ground. "Andy, you know me, I'm all about the narrative arc, not the side eye," she quipped, eliciting chuckles, but her eyes held a steeliness that promised more. And oh, there was more, layers upon layers of history, hurt, and Hollywood hustle waiting to unravel. As the conversation deepened, the studio felt smaller, the air thicker, every syllable charged with the weight of unspoken truths. Fans at home, glued to their screens, began flooding social media with emojis of exploding heads and popcorn buckets, unaware that this was just the opening act in a drama that would culminate in a walkout for the ages. Sarah Jessica Parker, the queen of reinvention, was about to remind everyone why she ruled the screen, and why crossing her was a mistake of mythic proportions. The stage lights burned brighter, casting long shadows that danced like specters of past scandals, and Andy Cohen, for all his charm, was about to learn that even best friends have breaking points. The clash was brewing, slow and simmering, like a pot left too long on the flame, and when it boiled over, it would scorch the earth of their friendship, leaving viewers scorched and satisfied in equal measure. But for now, in this first paragraph of our tale, we linger in the anticipation, savoring the build-up, the subtle cues, the way Sarah's fingers drummed lightly on her knee, the way Andy's laugh rang a touch too loud. It's the prelude to pandemonium, the whisper before the shout, and as the clock ticked toward midnight, the world waited with bated breath for the explosion that would redefine late-night legend. As the commercial break dissolved into the ether of live television magic, the studio lights snapped back to full brilliance, bathing Sarah Jessica Parker and Andy Cohen in a halo of artificial dawn that belied the gathering storm clouds of their impending verbal tempest. The audience, a sea of eager faces framed by the glow of their phones capturing every flicker, leaned forward as one, their anticipation palpable, like the hush before a thunderclap in a summer squall. Andy, ever the ringmaster of this circus of confessions, swirled his drink with theatrical flair, the ice cubes clinking like warning bells, and pivoted seamlessly back to the hot-button topic that had been simmering since Sarah's arrival. "Sarah, let's not dance around it," the Kim Cattrall cameo in Season 2 of And Just Like That was the gift that kept on giving, but it also dredged up all that old SATC baggage. Fans want to know, was it closure, or just another chapter in the feud that's fueled a million think pieces? His tone was light, laced with that Andy Cohen charm that could disarm a bomb or defuse a bomb, depending on the day, but tonight, it landed like a pebble in a pond, rippling outward into waves of unease. Sarah paused, her lips parting in a half-smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, those famous orbs that had conveyed 1,000 emotions from heartbreak to hilarity across 6 seasons and 2 revivals. She set her water bottle down with deliberate care, the soft thud echoing in the brief silence, and when she spoke, her voice was a velvet blade, smooth, but edged with the precision of someone who had navigated tabloid minefields for decades. "Andy, darling, closure is for books, not for life." Kim's return was brave, beautiful, a nod to the women we've all become, fiercer, freer, unapologetic. But let's be honest, the narrative around our feud was always more fiction than fact, spun by headlines hungry for drama. I reached out, we talked, and what emerged was respect, not resentment. The words flowed from her like a soliloquy from a lost Shakespearean play, eloquent and layered, drawing murmurs of approval from the crowd, who nodded along as if they were in on the secret. Yet Andy, sensing the undercurrent, pressed gently, his brow arching in that trademark way that invited deeper dives. "Respect, yes, but I've heard whispers, off the record, of course, that the set felt like a tightrope walk after her scenes. No shade, just tea. Did it change dynamics with Cynthia or Kristen?" It was a fair probe, the kind that Andy wielded like a scalpel in his interviews, cutting to the heart without unnecessary gore, but tonight, it nicked something raw in Sarah. Her posture shifted imperceptibly, shoulders squaring like a gladiator donning armor, and the audience caught the vibe, their chatter dying to a whisper. Sarah's response was measured, a tapestry woven from threads of diplomacy and defiance. She recounted a private lunch with Cynthia Nixon in a cozy Soho cafe, where they dissected the script's emotional beats over artisanal salads, laughing about how Miranda's arc had evolved from buttoned-up lawyer to liberated soul. CYN and I were sisters in this madness, through divorces, reboots, and everything in between, she said, her voice warming with genuine affection, painting vivid portraits of late-night script revisions under the hum of New York's eternal traffic. But as she transitioned to Kristen Davis, the warmth cooled slightly. Kristen, the steadfast Charlotte, had been the quiet anchor amid the storm, her blonde bob and bright smile a constant in press tours fraught with speculation. Kristen's grace under fire is unmatched. She's the one who reminds us why we started this. To tell stories that stick, Sarah added, but there was a pause, a breath held too long, that Andy pounced on like a cat on a laser dot. Grace under fire, love that. But fire from where? The press, the fans, or closer to home? The question was innocuous on the surface, a casual nudge, but it struck at the core of Sarah's carefully curated vulnerability. The studio air thickened, the scent of fresh popcorn from the green room mingling with the faint perfume of high-end cosmetics, as Sarah's eyes narrowed just a fraction. She leaned in, her curls brushing the arm of the chair, and unleashed a response that was pure Parker, witty, wounding, wise. Closer to home, Andy. Home is where the heart is, and mine's been through the ringer. But let's flip the script. You've built an empire on housewives hashing out their hurts. Ever think how exhausting it is to be the one dissected? It was a gentle jab, wrapped in humor, but the edge was there, sharp as a stiletto heel. The audience gasped softly, a collective intake that fueled the fire, and Andy laughed it off, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of surprise. He recovered masterfully, steering toward lighter fare with a story from his own cameo shoot, describing how Sarah had directed him through a scene with the fervor of a Scorsese, her notes on his posture turning what could have been a throwaway bit into gold. You had me channeling my inner Mr. Big, all swagger and no soul, he joked.